That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? We've talked ad nauseum about the fact that Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 1 was such an utter disappointment. And again, all due respect to people who watched Rings of Power Season 1 and enjoyed it. If you did, that's awesome. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying, as somebody who was extremely excited for that show, I walked away from it very disappointed, to the point that I didn't even care when the second season was going to come. I didn't even watch the debut episode on its opening day because I was always going to watch season 2 because it's Lord of the Rings, but I didn't really care all that much. That's how much season 1 disappointed me. And we've been talking for a number of weeks now about what the hell happened. All of a sudden, Rings of Power is a really good show. And, in the early episodes, I was saying, okay, I'm not ready to declare it a good show yet or a great show yet, but it is definitely an improvement over season 1. Let's see if it actually holds up. Well, yesterday I sat down to watch the second last episode of the season, episode 7. I can't remember what the actual name of the episode was. I just called The Siege of Eregion. What's that?
Was it The Eye?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
But I just called The Siege episode.
Doomed to Die.
Doomed to Die. That was the official name of the episode, yes.
The Doomed to Die or Doomed to Die.
I watched
Yeah,
this
true.
episode, and when it was done, I'm like, I can't put it off any longer. I can't believe I'm saying this. This show's great.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell happened to season 1? Because, this show, just talking about season 2, this has legitimately been great television. This is what season 1 should have been. And so we've said this on the show yesterday too. I don't know if I can ever think of another television show that had as fast and as drastic of a turnaround as Rings of Power. Like literally from one season that is like, I could care less if I ever watch this again, to, oh my God, this is now must-watch television for me.
Yeah.
And this episode was like the fulfillment of the promise of what grand epic. When we think about how they said, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is going to have a $460 million budget and all this kind of stuff. Last night's episode was the kind of thing we started thinking about they better have. And it wasn't just spectacle. This show actually makes their emotion work. My heart broke as Elrond is on his knees and says, Durin will come. Durin, he repeats it, Durin will come, like he just couldn't wrap. He could not accept that his friend is not going to be there for him. My heart broke. And of course I fell for Durin because they put Durin in an impossible situation. I love the dialogue of the dwarf who comes to him and says, you may go out and save your friends, but there may not be a Khazad-dûm when you come back. There may not be a mountain for you to come back to. Your own people are going to die. And the way they set that up, this whole season's been great. I've loved every character. I've even liked the Harfoot storylines going on.
I've tolerated it because there's not so much of it.
Don't get me wrong. Out of all the storylines going, they're my least favorite of all of them, but I'm actually enjoying it when their stuff's being told. I'm really liking the story. I love the Tom Bombadil stuff.
Yes.
The Adar stuff is great. That one thing when Adar, they're having like the funeral for some of the orcs. They're getting ready to burn them on the pyre. And like Adar is legit weeping over his orcs. He's crying over them.
Yeah, he's not just a mustache twirling villain.
No, he's far more than that. Like he's somebody who truly not just believes in what he's doing, he's passionate about what he's doing. And he doesn't care what he's got to do to protect his children, right? Like everything going on in Numenor, I'm loving. I'm actually wanting them to get back to Numenor. I want to see what happens when the dude finds out his son is still alive.
Because it's getting, you know why? Because it's feeling a little bit of Game of Thrones-y now with Numenor. Whereas before I was like, oh God, more people I'm just annoyed with.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, this is some good intrigue. I'm not saying it's Game of Thrones level. I'm just saying it's got that feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love the Ent stuff. I love now the lone elf on his quest for vengeance. Look, I was hesitant to do it before, and the first couple episodes dropped, and the third and the fourth episode, but I can't put it off anymore. I'm gonna call it. This show's great, and I'm flabbergasted. Now And you know what, guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Here's the thing, Chris. I enjoy it so much now.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me more angry about season 1.
Really?
Like, it's like you clearly had the pieces. You clearly look what you did with season 2. It almost makes season 1 more inexcusable to me.
I mean,
So I don't know.
listen,
What are you thinking so far?
You gotta take people's constructive criticism.
And they did.
Right?
They did.
We look at Sonic. Remember ugly Sonic? And then we got regular Sonic?
Yeah,
The Sonic of the people, that's what we're having with Rings of Power, okay? We got rid of those janky teeth, and now we're having a better time. And a lot of it is pacing. A lot of it is really working with the story that they want to tell here, because so much of season 1 really is just, well, we got to get some of this out of the way to get to this kind of stuff. Like the Eregion stuff is so much more interesting than anything that happened in season 1. Another thing is, I say this with all the love in my heart, it's not a faithful adaptation of Tolkien,
No,
and
it
that's
can't
fine.
Be. It can't be.
If that's what you want, go read the books. Go sit down next to a cozy fire and read the Silmarillion and have a great time.
I mean, like I told to that point, I told John yesterday, you can't do that because from the Silmarillion when the Rings of Power were forged, and Sauron was discovered, and then he fled. It was 200 years before he came back.
It's a historical text mixed with the Bible. If you want to
You
read
can't
that,
in the show have 200 years pass and
Yeah.
then have him come back.
It's got to have a different thing. And if you really want something super, super accurate, read the books. Read the books. Go do that. What they're doing here with the battles, what they're doing with character, what they are doing with just the overall story here is so interesting. Charles Edwards, who is playing Celebrimbor, is brilliant.
He breaks my heart every time.
He is so good. And I remember when he was first cast too, there was some shade thrown around about him being too old to play this elf, particularly because, again, canonically he is younger than Galadriel.
Sure.
I don't care how old any of these elves are. I just want them to be doing excellent acting, and he is delivering. This episode is so powerful for him and so messed up. And next week, if we revisit them, which I feel like you have to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be rough. And I am a little worried about this chapter ending, just because I've enjoyed him so much, and I don't think he is going to be with us for very much longer.
Yeah, probably not.
No, probably not. And
That I think they'll be a bit canonical about.
I will say if we get to the end of the season and the stranger is still wandering around a forest trying to figure out who he is, I'm gonna be a little frustrated.
If Tom Bombadil just doesn't give him some ayahuasca and go, figure it out, buddy. What are we doing?
Well,
because
you know,
that's a
it's-
little
they-
Rings of
Wrap
Power
it up.
season 1-ish for me.
They did show a preview for the final episode where you see the stranger talking to the Dark Wizard, and the Dark Wizard makes it, I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's going to get revealed.
Which is good. And
I mean, let's look, at this point, I'm going to be completely shocked if it's not Gandalf.
It has to be.
Clearly it's Gandalf. They even had that line from Tom Bombadil in the previous thing about, not all who deserve life live, not all who deserve death die. Who are we? Or, the same line
Sure.
he gave in the original films. And
Yeah.
I'm misquoting it, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
But again, this episode, The emotion was great.
Yeah.
The narrative was great. The mythology building was great. The spectacle was amazing. And again, I'm going to be thinking a long, long time about, I already mentioned Elrond on his knees on the battlefield, just saying over and over again, like just Durin will come. Durin will come. I haven't had something in TV break my heart like that in a while. It was beautifully done.
I listened to the episode again on the drive up here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where I was like, I'm just going to have this playing while I drive.
Like an audio
And-
drama?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Whew.
I will say it speaks to, on the business side, it speaks to Amazon's agility when you compare it to Disney, because they had to get through that Chapek era, and it shows how entrenched they were and how much he changed the structure there, that they had to get through so much content before we could start seeing a change with how it was run, whether it be showrunners or more direct contact with the artists that are involved, like, you know, Feige likes to do, or whatever, whoever's in charge. At Amazon, they were able to then shift, because they're like, wait,
Sure.
we're doing The Boys, we're doing these other shows that are good, we can make this better. And it shows their agility. you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, 1,000%.
And again, yeah, just their ability to pivot. And by the way, not as many people ditched on Rings of Power after season 1 as I initially thought. The Nielsen ratings just came out, and Rings of Power is the number 2 overall streaming show for its period, for its debut episode. Now, remember, the Nielsen ratings come out on a delay. So it's talking about the first episode, because whereas the first episode of season 1 came out and got 1.2 billion minutes streamed,
Yeah.
season 2 still debuted with over 1 billion minutes streamed. So there was a bit
That's
of a
great.
drop from season 1, but not nearly as many people ditched on it as I thought would have
Yeah.
ditched on it. And I'm not going to be surprised if the Nielsen ratings come out again in a month and we find that the ratings have started to go up.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many articles that keep coming out of, you need to give Rings of Power another shot, or after episode 7 here, Doomed to Die. There have been so many articles today that just say, even if you don't care about Lord of the Rings at all, you should watch this episode because it's great television.
Yeah.
I've seen, you're right, because I've seen so many headlines that are not just that, but also saying it's time to get over yourself. And like this one headliner, it's time to get over yourself and watch Rings of Power season 2.
Yep.
And like so many headlines now saying, guys, you know what? Just listen, I agree. Season 1 was a disappointment. I agree. But season 2 is so
On
good.
my rewatch, I didn't hate it that much, though.
You
I know you didn't,
wonder-
but I'm not touching it. I rewatched. I had to go back because I realized I didn't watch the last episode. I'm like, oh my God.
Because you know how I said seeing how good season 2 is just making me more mad at season 1. I wonder if I did do a rewatch of season 1, if season 2 would make it feel better.
Well, you know
I
where
don't
it's.
know,
You
but-
would know where it's heading.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
at
have
least
that.
you'd have that kind
So
of hope.
someone yesterday in the chat said, "Do I have to watch season 1 to get to understand season 2?" And I begrudgingly was just like, "I think you have to." And I'm sorry.
You could watch the recap.
Maybe
I
try
think,
some
yes,
recaps.
Watch a YouTube 35-minute recap
Yeah.
of Rings of Power season 1 and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be set. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you watch the newest episode of Rings of Power? It has put me over the edge. I'm like, I got to say it. This show's great now. This show's great. I don't care what anybody else says. This show is now great. And I'm having a ball with it. What have you guys been thinking about it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.